Growing season may be over, but that doesn't mean that the work is done. Today, we're going to be chatting about a couple things that you could be doing during this winter period to prepare your grow for the following season. Now, some of you may still be attempting to grow, and we have been discussing that and will continue to do so. But for those of you who just want to concentrate on those big summer trees, this is definitely an episode for you. We're going to jump right in with just a little bit about, the understanding of your climate. South Africa has various different climates. We've got a Mediterranean climate here in the Western Cape. We've also got a more sort of subtropical climate up the East Coast. So, really depending on where you are, you're going to have to adjust your strategy accordingly. But if you are wanting to prepare for the following season, you've just come out of a specific season, our summer season, and now you're looking forward towards the next one, it will be good just to note a couple things, maybe while everything's fresh in your mind as to how the season went. Was it incredibly hot and dry? Did you have super high humidity? Did you get sort of late mold? What happened during the period, and what sort of climatic factors affected your grow? And this is just going to better help you understand and plan for the following season. Growing's a lot about improvement, and it's also about sort of keeping track of what's happened in the past, because 6 months from now, where you get into your next grow, everything's not going to be so fresh in your mind. So if you had a really tough year this year on the outdoor, it's really time just now to sit down, maybe enjoy some of the flower if you did manage to crop some out, and to just write a couple notes related to the season, how it went, what challenges you faced, and set up a little bit of a plan for the following season. But on that, there's one main preparation which I really like to get stuck into early on, and that's my soil preparation. So Luke, tell me a little bit about some things we could do to prepare our soil for the following grow season.
So if you're doing a sort of living soil or living bed, you want to curate and get the microbial and the biological activity going in that soil over a long period of time, and then maintain that. So, making sure that you are maybe de-weeding, your cover crops are in and growing, and you're maintaining that. You have some sustenance and growth happening within that soil to keep the microbiology going, as well as feeding it, whether that be sort of composting that you're making yourself, worm teas, Bokashi brand tea. It doesn't matter what you're doing, as long as you've got a plan as to how you're going to re-amend that bed or curate it over your sort of off season if you have one. And then just understanding that going forward, keeping that microbiology and the bacteria is going alive there is really, really, really what's going to make the difference in the next season.
Yeah, amazing. Preparing that soil and just making sure you're ahead is really going to help, because by the time it starts to get warmer, you're basically wanting to plant, and any preparations that would have taken a couple months, sort of having to rush, and a lot of the time that's gonna affect us, not affect us negatively, but maybe just slow down things a little bit. And it's also good to keep in the rhythm and busy during the quieter seasons, so that when season comes, you're still in a bit of a routine and you're not getting back into a routine again. Now, I just also wanted to touch a little bit on what we spoke about in our previous episode, and that was with relation to sort of greenhouses or potentially some indoor cultivation. It is a specifically outside, we are able to put some interventions in, like a greenhouse, and this would allow you to extend your season. But this could also allow you to sort of create a space where it's easier to germinate seeds. You can grow various different plants into sort of miniature plants, and then get them out into the more harsh environment, of the outside. So if you are preparing for the next season, having somewhere where you can have a controlled, slightly warmer environment might help you with germination of cover crops, germination of vegetables, and just sort of getting a more diverse garden going during the during the winter period. And then also maybe with the warmer temperatures, you'd have a little bit more success cultivating some cannabis, as we did discuss previously. But what I've personally found is having a small tunnel in the garden. I do all of my seedling germination for all kinds of plants in the tunnel. I let them sort of get into sort of miniature plants and then take them out into the ground or into the slightly colder environment. And in the long run, that's just going to help me with a little bit more control during the very finicky phase of the seedling stage, which always causes issues, especially also if things are getting super rained out. You don't want overwatering on any kind of seedling. So if you're wanting to maximize the chances that you're going to be able to, germinate your cover crop or get a successful sort of winter vegetable grow or even cannabis grow, then having a warm environment is going to help. And you could do this with a greenhouse, or you could do it with an indoor space. But obviously the indoor space is just going to be a little bit more costly to get into. Now, I think a big point on this one, Luke, that I want you to touch on is sort of planning of your strains. If you had a really tough grow last year, would you stick with the same genetic again, or would you maybe plan according to what kinds of issues you'd faced when selecting your genetic?
So from a personal perspective here is I like to have a look at the lineages and then plan accordingly. So if I'm going into my summer grows where I know I've got the whole beautiful Western Cape summertime to cultivate and grow cannabis, I'll target something that's going to do well in my area, and then obviously specific to my tastes and my profiles that I like. So it is very, very important to have a look at the lineages that you're getting, or speak to someone who has a little bit of knowledge on that. Find out what is good for the area at that specific time. Give a little bit of information. Okay, cool. I've got a greenhouse. The temperatures are a little bit more stabilized. However, it's not full control. Okay, cool. We need to have a look at something that does well in mid temperatures, can tolerate some variance in quite a big variance in maybe moisture content, especially here for the Western Cape. It's very, very rainy in the winter time. So when it comes to your genetics, you've got to be selective as to what you want for the upcoming season. Prepare beforehand. So make a list of what you want and what you want to achieve and how you possibly can achieve it, and the lineages that are going to help you get there. And then plan accordingly. It's always the best bet.
Yeah, what I've seen a lot of the time new growers maybe more so want to go for sort of the trendiest, sort of most edgy strain. And a lot of the time those trendy, edgy strains are far less forgiving than, say, maybe some of the classics. And in turn, it sometimes makes it just a little bit more difficult to get the results while you're learning. So yeah, I think chat to other growers in your area, chat to the professionals, and see what they think is going to do well. Because in a long summer period, you really don't want to get hit sort of 6 months down the line with a whole bunch of issues if your genetic isn't suitable to the microclimate which you're cultivating in. Just treating the issues that you have in your garden during the winter period, or just identifying issues that you have in the garden during the winter period, is definitely going to help you set up that IPM strategy for the summer, and maybe defeat any pest infestations that you do have. But like I did say, there's lesser in the colder months, so it's just a good time to take note, do any maintenance, trim your trees, get your garden tip-top shape, so that when the summer work comes, all of the sort of excess work is done. I always overflow my garden work into the winter because I just find it being such a sort of busy summer period. But yeah, guys, I think that's all for today. Luke and I put in a little bit of thought as to how you can plan for the future season, and we hope you are doing so. I think the main sort of point of this episode was just to say, there is still work in the winter period, and just doing those preparations now is just going to make it easier for you to achieve those goals in the new season. Thanks, Luke, as always, for joining us. Thanks everyone for watching. For those of you who made it to the end, it was a good one. And yeah, we'll chat to you guys soon. Peace.